and welcome to Toffees Victoria. We are back. We had a bit of a break from the week last week. So we'll quickly just dive into that Newcastle game. We've got just us. So yeah, we'll quickly jump into that Newcastle game. 2-1 loss. We didn't play well. Happy Calvert-Lewin scored a goal. So, he continued that, I guess. Nick?
Yeah, Calvert-Lewin, a great finish, which was probably the only positive from the game. I actually don't remember the goals that were scored against us. I haven't even bothered reviewing it, if I'm honest.
Someone called Wilson.
It was just shocking from what I could make out. And it was another early kickoff as well. And it just makes you wonder why we were getting up and watching such dross. It's really not been a great couple of weeks. That's all I've really got to say for it. I don't really know what's wrong with them, but I guess we'll talk about that in a bit.
Yeah.
Tim, have you got any comments, hopefully more insightful than I've been able to provide?
Not really, mate. I mean, as soon as I looked at the team selection, I knew we were in for a bit of a hiding. I think we had no wingers on the pitch, and any team that still has, Delph, Gomez, Sigurdsson all lining up in the same team with Alan and Decore. I mean, that's 5 central midfielders. It was from that point on, it was pretty hard to see. I mean, if you take the 3 best creative players out of any team, they're going to struggle. And our 3 best creative players are Richarlison, Rodriguez, and Digne. And we had not one of those 3 for this game. So I think it was always going to be a struggle. We all know that we haven't been great defensively. So conceding 1 or 2 was always an option. Look, the less said about it, the better, to be honest. After the Southampton, I thought things couldn't get much worse. And then Newcastle came along. And, as we said, it's been a week and a half since that game. So I don't remember it too fondly or too well, to be honest. And it's one of those ones that you just sort of evacuate from the memory bank to make room for happier memories, I think.
That's right.
Yeah, a defeat. I mean, I really hate playing Newcastle away. I think it's a tough game at the best of times, and I don't know. I've just got a thing about Newcastle as well because I don't know. I always think we kind of compete against each other for sort of the best of the rest, as in terms of club size and things like that. So there's a bit of a rivalry there. Obviously, the history and things like that are incomparable, but I just think Newcastle with their fans as well. Although I know a lot of good Newcastle fans, but I just think there's a rivalry there, and it's one of my least favourite games, especially when we lose.
Definitely.
So disappointing.
And I had to laugh at a little bit of irony with Fraser supplying the assist for their second goal because he was someone we were quite heavily linked to in the off season who was available on a free.
And most Evertonians turn their noses up at him.
Look, I think I did too. Don't get me wrong. I'd much prefer James and Richarlison on any wing to Fraser, but when you look at the depth that we spoke about in the first 5 games, I think the last few have proved that it's not really there. With guys like Bernard in that game, particularly in Iwobi, just not really being able to cut the mustard when they came on. Fraser might have been a handy pickup that would have cost not very much, but I just found it a bit ironic that, of course, it had to be Ryan Fraser to come on and provide the assist for the second one. As I said, overall disappointing game. Pretty boring as well. Not a lot happened.
Yeah.
Other than Wilson scoring 2, which was good for my fantasy team. That's about it, really.
Fair enough.
There you
go. Got to take the wins.
That's right. And with that, we'll get on to the Manchester United game. But before we do, we actually got together here in Melbourne. We can dine out and book an area for up to 10 people. And on Saturday night, we went to Kicks in the city, caught up with a whole bunch of great people, including the guys here. And we watched the game there. And Nick, how about you start us off of how it all went wrong?
I'll start with what went right.
Start from the positives,
And that was just our day out. So as Andy mentioned, we all got together, the Toffees Victoria Supporters Club that we have here in Melbourne. We had to limit the numbers because in Melbourne you can only have I think 10 people in any one sitting, and we found a little bar in the town called Club Colombia, and it was all Colombian themed, and of course we were singing about James Rodriguez and Yerry Mina and stuff, and I think there may have been a few Colombians in there as well who were quite happy to see us because we were all in our Everton kit, all quite jovial and in good spirits. We had a good meal, and then we went to Kicks and watched the game again, just loads of beers, loads of great people, had a really, really fun time. Unfortunately, here comes Everton, where you can always sort of write the script. We're having an amazing time. We've just come out of lockdown, all these people around us, great time. And Man United are in poor form. They need a win. And of course, we roll over and give them a win with some of the worst defending. I mean, the first two goals. I mean, I think the third goal, Cavani, was just on the break, and I think Decore should score for us first.
Yeah.
Then they hit us on the counter. But the first two goals, the defending is so poor. It's just unbelievable how we let Fernandes run onto the ball, onto the 6-yard box from the cross, unchallenged, unmarked, and equally the same for the second Fernandes goal, which. We all thought Martial had touched it in, but it actually just came from the cross. But the fact that Martial was in the centre, completely unmarked again, was just ridiculous. And of course, even though he didn't touch the ball, affected Pickford in his, in actually judging the ball, which isn't a knock on Pickford. I guess the only positives were Bernard. I really like the little fella. I think he's a good player on his day, and he scored a really good goal. But we just looked pretty toothless. I think we did have some chances that maybe we could have done better with, but. Overall, I think United were pretty deserved winners. I don't think that we did much to even draw the game, and I guess no complaints from that side of things. What about you, Andy?
Yeah, it was pretty just, we started so well, got the goal. It was great to see everyone celebrating and stuff, social distancing, of course. And yeah, it's just the defending was just so bad. And for it to be Fernandes, because he tore us up last time when it was at Goodison Park. Though, even that game was, the whole controversy with the Sigurdsson on the ground and all that. But yeah, it was just so amateur-like, and I just couldn't understand, because he actually goes past Keane, and Keane just goes, oh, okay. It's like, no, you've actually got to go on him. You don't just, he's basically brushed by you, and you're just ball watching. So yeah, I really hope Carlo he really drills them in with setup plays, because we're just conceding. It's just ridiculous. It shouldn't be happening like that. Get to your man and, fight for the ball. And with the second goal, I've heard some comments that maybe, Olsen should have been in the team, because he actually would have probably come out and punched it, because that's what you would think. But yeah, Pickford he just sort of stayed on the line, and then he's just like, oh, it's gone in. Did he lose it in the sun? We kept screaming, put a hat on, put a hat on.
I think he can be criticised, but I just think because it was so obviously it was Martial in the middle, wasn't it?
Rashford, I thought.
Rashford.
Was it Rashford?
Yeah.
Okay. So whoever was going for the flick on, I think you would anticipate that he would flick on the ball. So if you came for the ball, you'd probably look a bit silly once, because I think Rashford was always the one that was favourite to win the ball. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think him staying on his line was the right choice, because I think if Rashford actually connects with it, I think Pickford saves it. The fact that, because if Rashford connects with it, it's not hitting the bottom of the far post. Do you know what I mean? Because of the way it curled around, and because he didn't get even a little nick on it, if he got even the slightest of touches on it, it deviates more centrally, and then Pickford can get a hand to it. As it was, he sort of almost had a hand to it, but it went so low because obviously it was a dipping cross.
It was a cross, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, it was really, the reality is the big issue, as Nick pointed out, was Rashford being free.
Yeah, he was free, no one there. Just really disappointing. And then, as soon as they brought Cavani on, I'm just like, who's going to score? And then, because we were pushing up so high, and then, as soon as they got the ball and the counter-attack happened and he just slaughtered in, I'm like, game's over. That's done. And I could, I just, in my mind, as soon as that full-time whistle went, I could just hear the boos from the crowd. Even though there's no crowd, I just knew, because that's what we would be doing. That type of performance and result, everyone would just be booing and giving it to them all. And Tim.
Look, obviously great night catching up with everyone, as you blokes mentioned, and the celebration that was definitely social distance.
It was.
When Bernard scored was really good. I've missed that. As we know, there's no crowds at the actual Premier League, and we've all been watching it at home, or sometimes getting together as we can over Zoom to watch it.
Yeah.
So watching it with 10 of us from the supporters club in the same room and being able to celebrate together was really good. It felt like 7 months of angst released when we celebrated that goal, and then all the angst came back about 2 minutes later. So I think look, for Fernandez, for both goals really. I think the blame comes down to the defence. I think blame comes down to our defence for that entire game. I actually think we created enough chances to be able to at least take a point there.
Especially in the second half, I found.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think United created enough outside of those 2 goals that they had, which really they only scored because of poor defending. Now, I went back and watched the 25-minute sort of mini-match today. And the first goal, Fernandez, just drifts in. But I noticed, why Coleman doesn't close down Luke Shaw more. And this is starting to become a concern because so many goals are coming from our right-hand side. And you can say it's because James doesn't track back or whatever, but he was there as well. And Decore was there. And Ellen was there. And Michael Keane got sucked over. So they had just 2 or 3 players passing it around and 5 of our guys running around like sort of headless chooks, all on that side of the box, which enabled Fernandez to just drift in. I mean, firstly, 5 on 2 or 3, Luke Shaw should never get the cross in the first place. Secondly, when he did, when you watch a replay, Sigurdsson is on Fernandez, and Fernandez goes to run in the box, and Sigurdsson points like this, but doesn't actually look at Michael Keane. So he's virtually saying to Michael Keane, pick him up. But Michael Keane's already jogging to the same area Sigurdsson is jogging. And Fernandez just goes, okay, jogs on in.
Couldn't believe it.
So it was all round just poor defence. And, it was a decent ball in, obviously. But, the defence is a little bit better. There's a clearing header on that. And then, the second goal was almost a carbon copy, really. It was just a 1-2 between Rashford and Fernandez. Rashford passed it off.
Sorry, I was going to ask you, Tim and Andy, do you guys think putting Holgate straight back in the team was a mistake?
I think it was, too soon.
Maybe. It's hard to say. I mean, there was a huge gap between Keane and Holgate, almost like they were socially distancing throughout the entire game. They were that far apart. And it makes me wonder, has one of them done something to upset the other? But I mean, that gap was exploited twice. And I would have thought that's where Allen would be as well, sort of tracking the runner there. But he did seem to get sucked in a lot to wherever the ball actually is. I mean, I think we created... I'm not at panic stations after that game. Yes, it was a disappointing loss. And the third goal, I almost discount. It's a 2-1 loss, the third one, whatever. We're pushing for a win. It was, 30 seconds of stoppage time left. Not even. I think they scored that, and that was the last kick of the game. It was good to see that we were actually pushing forward in numbers and trying to get a win. And Alan actually made a few little dribbles around players, which I didn't know he was capable of. So it was nice to see that side of him as well. Decore really, between the 90th and the 94th minute, had 2 chances. One outside the box that he skied over, and then one inside the box where he couldn't really sort his feet out. And even Iwobi, when he came on, whipped in a nice cross for Calvert-Lewin, and Maguire got his head in the way, which if Maguire doesn't get that touch, that's going in the net.
Yeah.
So I think we created enough chances to at least take a point out of that. I'm obviously disappointed that we didn't. But the main reason why goes down to our shoddy defending. And it is becoming a concern for me that week on week, all of the play from other teams is coming down their left and our right.
Yeah, they're often targeting Coleman, aren't they? There was something else I picked up as well. It wouldn't be an excuse for the performance, and it's a similar sort of scenario to, I guess, the Pickford-Van Dijk situation, with it being after the whistle and whether or not the referee has to see it. But it was Maguire on Dean.
Yes,
and
I remember
I don't know if you guys remember it from the night, but it's on the highlights video on Optus. And the whistle had gone for a foul or an offside or something, and Maguire's tackle on Dean in the area was probably warranted, I would say arguably, for a red card and a penalty.
Oh.
I mean, I don't know if you guys remember it or what your take is on that.
Yeah, I do remember. So he did get the ball. So basically it was an offside. Dean's running in and Maguire comes across, and he does get a bit of the ball, but he also gets a lot of Dean, like the top of Dean's foot. So he's come sort of down like that, which they don't like. Now, as I said, I rewatched the mini match, and according to what the commentators are saying, it was almost kind of similar to the scenario with Pickford.
The same scenario, it being after the whistle. It wasn't a similar tackle, but it was the same.
No, yeah, definitely. And I think what they said was the only reason VAR looked at it was to decide if it was a red card or not.
Okay.
So even if VAR said it was a red card, I still don't think it would have been a penalty. I don't think, because it was an offside prior to it. VAR simply looked at it to see if Maguire should be sent off or not. And the fact that he wasn't sent off also meant that he couldn't just be given a yellow based on VAR. So it was like red or nothing, which is very strange. The commentators even sort of alluded to the fact that perhaps Maguire knew it was offside and took the opportunity to put in a heavier tackle than he otherwise might have in that situation. So, I think that's something they really have to look at. Basically, from memory from our game, they said, it has to be like obvious violent conduct. So it kind of feels like as long as someone's offside, as long as you don't punch him in the head, you can get away with anything, really. I'm sure a lot of people will be saying, well, us Evertonians shouldn't be saying too much after what Pickford got away with.
Yeah.
But you're right. It was basically a carbon copy of that scenario. And I guess.
Sorry to interrupt. I don't want to get on a whole woe is me vibe, but why can't we just get away with one without anything else thrown against us?
Just give us
we all know that we got away with not just one, but a couple of things against the Reds, right? We know that. Why can't it just be okay from there? Like, do you know what I mean? Why does it have to sort of? Why does karma have to come after us for weeks and weeks and weeks? Do you know what I mean? We can never just get away with things, can we? It's always.
Well, I think if anything, this scenario proved that actually Pickford didn't deserve to get sent off, nor did it deserve to be a penalty, because the same thing. Now we can argue about the degree of the challenge between what Maguire did and what Pickford did, and the resultant injuries until the cows come home. But basically, it's proven now based on what happened to us in that game. Maguire didn't get red carded, and we didn't get a penalty. Luckily, Dina wasn't injured, but the same result as Pickford Van Dijk. So really, it's sort of like it kind of takes all the gas out of the argument from Coppite to say it was sort of special treatment for Everton.
They won't see it that way though.
No, of course they won't. But I'm sure they're still holding candlelight vigils outside Van Dijk's hospital room.
That's right.
Write it into the Liverpool Echo like an obituary.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Back to with the United game. Also, there was that really good chance by Digne, and he just hit the crossbar, but he should have passed it to Calvert-Lewin. And the anger on Calvert-Lewin's face, like, my goodness. But yeah, and that was early on, and I agreed. Like, what are you doing? Like, just cross it in. Like,
he was obviously trying to power it in from the angle.
Yeah, but
and he sort of just hit the post.
Yeah, but if you have a slight doubt, just cross it. Just cross it.
Yeah.
I know where he's coming from though, because I always try that on FIFA. So you're running down towards the goal at an angle, and you've got all these players in the box, but you're sort of bearing down on the keeper from an angle. So you try and put it on full blast into the top corner like that.
Yeah.
It's in the high reds, and it's just way over.
And if it goes crossbar in, it's the best feeling ever. But.
Yeah.
Yes. But yeah, you're right, Andy. I think Calvert-Lewin was pretty disappointed, as was James, who was coming in behind him at the far post by himself as well. So,
but even if Calvert-Lewin had missed,
would have been a better
option. You would have had James as a backup to
Yeah, exactly.
Disappointing.
But that's just another example of as I said, I think we created enough to be able to. I think we were worth a point there at least. It didn't pan out that way, but that's how it goes sometimes.
Yeah. And with that, we'll go into halftime. And we're back. So yeah, what we're going to talk about now is 3 losses in a row. It's not good, and the team's performance has been very lackluster. So guys, what's happened? Tim, kick us off.
Yeah, look, I thought that probably the Southampton game was the most upsetting, I thought, out of the 3 losses that we've had, because we didn't really offer much. We didn't have many excuses. in terms of injuries, although I guess Godfrey at right back was not ideal. Richarlison out. I mean, part of me wonders if it's purely a mental block that, you know, the stat that we've never won without Richarlison is that we all know that whenever anything is expected of any Everton squad ever, they capitulate mentally. I thought having no crowd there may have changed that and eased a bit of the pressure, but maybe not. For me, my concern is that right-hand side. I don't even know if it's got so much to do with James not tracking back. Because he does track back. He might not really close people down, but he does put himself in places. I feel like teams have sort of figured something out that they can just easily attack down our right, their left. And, you know, Southampton, all of their goals came from that side. Newcastle was a bit more, you know, one from a penalty, but the cross from Fraser came from that side for the second goal. And United, both their crosses came from that side. So I don't know, like I can't sort of pinpoint why that's happening. I can't say that Seamus is playing horribly. Maybe he needs to get out and close people down a bit more. But yeah, basically all the players coming down that side, which is frustrating. The Newcastle game, I'm almost prepared to give a free pass on simply because I mentioned earlier, if you take the three most creative players out of any team, that team is going to struggle.
Yeah.
You know, imagine City without, say, Aguero, De Bruyne, and Sterling. That's an entirely different looking Manchester City team. Look, I don't think it's time for panic stations. In reality, if we win our next game, we're back in the top four. You know what I mean? It's a crazy season. Southampton were top of the table earlier this week. You know, the season's really, it's fluctuating quite a bit. So I think our next three are Fulham next two are Fulham and Leeds. So I think we definitely need a win out of Fulham. Leeds will be a tough one because that's Bielsa's a bit of a wily character. So if I'm saying teams have figured out how we've played, then he might be one of them, definitely.
Bielsa's down at the training ground spying, isn't he? So.
That's right. Yeah, he's up in the Gladys Street with his binoculars. But I think, for me, it's been disappointing. As I said, I think the Man United game, we created enough to at least be. I think we were value for a point there. I think we were a bit unlucky not to take a point away. I mean, it's hard to say unlucky. It was just really poor defending. I think that creatively and attacking wise, we created enough to kick a few goals.
Yeah.
But defensively, we let ourselves down, which happens. I think with Richarlison back, you know, once you get Digne, Richarlison, and James back in the same team, I think we're going to see something completely different. It's hard for me to understand how Richarlison is that important, particularly when the main reason that we've lost these games is because of goals conceded coming down the side that Richarlison doesn't even play on.
Yeah.
But I guess he makes us a little less predictable going forward. He offers something that, you know, Bernard or Iwobi or whatever don't offer. So yeah, I just think once we get Richie back in, you know, as I said, I'm not panicking. It's been a disappointing 3 weeks, but you know, we had a very good start to the season, and that's not to be overlooked. And I think,
true.
You know, three losses to 3 teams that I would say we should be beating based on the table positions at the time we played each of those teams. But as I said, not the end of the world. I'm not panicking. I'm not throwing the shirt away. I'm not burning my membership if I had one.
Yeah.
But I certainly think that the defence needs to be sorted because that has been a problem all season. It's just kind of been masked by the fact that we were able to outscore opposition. And I think I did mention that a couple of times during the first 5 weeks. But the last few weeks we haven't been able to, and I think that's largely due to the players that we're missing. And I think Holgate will be better for the run too, and that long term will make our defence a bit more stable. What do you reckon, Nick?
Yeah, I would agree. And that point at the end that you made about, you know, the defence has been a problem all season, and we've been outscoring opposition primarily. It's maybe sort of clouded our judgment because we have had such a good start. You know, 4 wins in any league season is a great start, even if we haven't played the top teams apart from Tottenham. Yeah, but maybe it has clouded our judgment as to where we are as a team, and maybe when we do have someone like Richarlison missing for 3 games, it is a bigger effect than maybe we would have hoped. I mean, apart from the Southampton game, even at Newcastle, we played okay in patches, and we can pass the ball and zip the ball around. And James is, you know, just a phenomenal player and still better than anything we've ever had. But yeah, maybe when we don't have Richarlison on the side, that defensive vulnerability is exposed more. And whilst without him in the side, we're not going to go and score 4 or 5 goals, and we're just going to concede the 2 or 3 that we do every game anyway. So yeah, it's just disappointing. I think just the wind has been knocked out of our sails a little bit. We were all so excited about what's going to happen with us, and potentially getting top 6, top 4 even. I think it's just sort of brought us back down to earth. Andy and I were talking before the show about the Derby curse, and something happens at the Derby and it kind of affects us for weeks and weeks and weeks. And I think that mentality, that psychological thing that always happens with Everton, that we can't just seem to shake. And so the bad press that we've had and all that sort of stuff,
definitely
it's clearly taken a toll on the squad, even when it shouldn't. And I think I'm not a panic stations, like you said, Tim. I'm not a panic stations, but I think if we don't get at least a draw against Fulham, then I probably would be panicking. And it's kind of, we've gone from an absolutely 100% record to 100% defeat in the last 3 weeks, and it's just a stark contrast. And I think it just summarises the highs and lows of being an Everton supporter. But yeah, specifics around the team. I think it's just that defence and that right side. I think teams target Coleman because he has lost that yard of pace, and he is vulnerable defensively, and James doesn't do the tracking back that maybe we would hope. So I don't really know what the answer is. I just hope that we can do something against Fulham and Leeds and get us back on track. Andy?
Yeah, you both of you guys have said some really good things. But I think what also is, with the year that it's been, like, I think players are definitely on different fitness levels. And I think at the start, everyone was probably much the same level. But then international break happened, lots of traveling, all that. They come back, they play a crazy intense game against our biggest rivals. And then you have red cards, you have injuries, and then, you have changes of formations in the next few games. So you got people, okay, I need to, Mina was out of the team in one of the games. So it's like, okay, I've got a new person next to me. So it's kind of shaken things up. So the confidence is just dropped. So like you had Gylfi and Gomez starting to play really well because you've had quality players like Alan and Decore and James inspiring them. And then all of a sudden they've just gone back to how they were last time. And it's just like, what, like, what's happening? You have Gomez. You have Gomez making passes, and then to the opposition, and then he's just like yelling at himself, and he's just like, like you could see the frustration. It's like, well, I'm glad you're angry at yourself, but like that's the 3rd time you've done it in this game. Like, what's going on? And you have Gylfi just continuing his pointing, and it's like, if no one's going to him, you go to him. Like,
take a bit of ownership.
Take some ownership. Why are you still doing corners? You can't even beat the first man half the time.
Yeah, I don't understand that.
What is happening there? Put James on. Is James just worried that if he overuses the kick because of his, he's just come back? Like, are they worried about he could pull a muscle? Like, what, But like, come on, you put someone else than Gylfi.
I had a really funny vision just pop into my head then of you sitting by the Gladys Street corner flag when Gylfi Sigurdsson's taking a corner going,
what are you doing?
Why are you taking corners?
Yeah, exactly. I probably would be doing that if we're allowed.
I think we said very early on that when we brought in, Alan, Decore and James in the first sort of 4 games, those 3 in particular sort of gelled into the team seamlessly.
Yeah.
And it just struck me then, Andy, when you were saying that, for those first 4 or 5 weeks, we essentially started with the same 11.
Yeah.
The rotation was basically between Sigurdsson and Gomez. But basically it was the pretty much the same 11 every week, including in defence. And I guess we were all saying how good our depth was because of the League Cup games that we were playing.
That's right.
But I think we may have overestimated our depth considering that guys like Awobi and Bernard were having really good games against, Salford and Fleetwood. So I think we did maybe become a bit complacent about our depth because I think these last few weeks have shown that, and I feel this applies to a lot of Premier League teams, not just us, but if you take out 2 or 3 of our best players, then the rest of the team around them, without them, becomes worse as a whole.
Yeah.
Like as you were saying, Sigurdsson reverts, Gomez reverts back.
Yeah, because they don't trust the person that's there because they were with them last season, and look what happened there.
Yeah. So I think we all remember the comment that we all spoke about in the WhatsApp group when Schwarzer came out and said, Everton are 2 injuries away from being, crap, basically.
Yeah.
We were all outraged.
Yeah,
that's right. But maybe, but we also did say, that could apply to virtually any team.
Yeah, you take Kane and Sung out of that team.
Yeah, that's right. But I mean, for a couple of those games we had, Nkunku had to start. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't just 1 or 2 players. There was unfit guys who were running out when they shouldn't have been, and there was guys playing their first games. And Olsen played his first game, and Nkunku played his first game. Kenny played his first start of the season in the Premier League during these sort of 3-game periods. Guys who wouldn't normally start were starting. It's going to happen. We're going to get injuries.
Yeah.
I think the disappointing thing is that against teams like Southampton and Newcastle, who we think we should be beating, we still couldn't manage to grind out a result. But again, I think, once we get everyone back on the pitch, which I think, touch wood, no injuries during the international break or suspensions, I think, we'll be fine coming up against Fulham. Just a question I wanted to throw out to you guys, though. Let's say all our centre-backs are fully 100% fit, ready to go. So that's Holgate, Branthwaite, Godfrey, Mina, and Keane. Who would be your preferred starting 2 for any game in the future?
I don't know because I don't know how they play together. I think our best 2 players are probably Godfrey and Holgate.
But
they haven't worked together.
So if it was one or the other, I think you'd have Holgate and Keane or Godfrey and Keane.
Well, there's been some talk that putting Godfrey in defensive mid.
Rather put Holgate there. Well, he did actually. I did read when we signed him that he did start his career as a defensive midfielder.
Yeah, and he's got that pace, so why not?
And we all remember Holgate doing a job in midfield when
he did
Ferguson was
interim
good manager. So maybe it's a case of because I think Allen showed in that United game that he's got a little bit more to give in terms of going forward.
Yeah, because he created a few, he got up there, right, and he got us a few free kicks. So he's
I never followed his career in Napoli. I assumed that we bought him as a holding midfielder.
Yeah.
But after that Man United game, I'm wondering if maybe he's a bit more of a box-to-box midfielder.
Box-to-box, yeah.
So perhaps if you take out a Sigurdsson or a Gomez, Allen can play there, Alan. And then you have until Gabaman is fit again, which should not be too far off either. Don't forget about Gabaman.
Forget about him,
yeah. Perhaps he's the guy who's more likely to play in that number 8 role. But until he's fit, maybe a Godfrey or a Holgate can do a job there to free up Allen.
Well, yeah, because he was our Idris again cover.
Hang on, lads. Where do you fit Delph or Iwobi?
Well, I fit Delph in another club.
Yeah, not on the game sheet at all.
In some sort of non-league team where he can actually abuse the fans face to face instead of via Twitter. And Iwobi, I still look again. He's very hit and miss. It's very hard. As we know, I've had a bit of a love affair with him, and it is definitely starting to ease off. But then he played quite well when he came on against United. So he has moments where he can turn it on. I think he just needs to be a bit more consistent. But I think the lack of games is not going to help him get that consistency.
And he can't get past a player. He just struggles to dribble past someone. He'll get the ball and go, no, I can't do anything, and pass it back or pass it to someone else.
Yeah.
It's but early days you could take them on. Just try.
Yeah, and then other times you see him do, that cross he was able to swing in against United was a result of getting around someone. So I don't know. But Iwobi, I think, still has a role to play within the squad as a sub. But I mean, I wouldn't be casting him off too quickly.
Yeah. Well, with that, we'll wrap things up. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys. Good to see you again.
Yeah. And just a quick reminder, this Sunday we've got the Everton Supporters Club of Australia's new logo launch and Q&A with the guys at Toffee TV on the 15th of November at 7:30 p.m. Tickets are still available. They wanted me to keep the promotion going. Why not? It's good for it's for a good cause, the Everton community.
Yep.
So yeah, we'll catch you guys next time, and thanks for watching. Come on, you Blues!
Go on, you Blues. See you, boys.